Discovery.
Hello and welcome to Cutting to the Ball in the Post-Truth Apocalypse. I'm Ben. As always, I'm hanging out with Mike.
Hello.
Claire.
Hey.
And Pete.
Bonjour.
This week we bring you some true crime. We don't do a lot of true crime as a rule.
Which is fucking depressing.
But Mike's been doing something recently. And
I just watched this documentary, well, this TV series starring Mark Addy and Stephen Graham on ITV. It was good.
And he thought, well, let's have some true crime.
Yeah.
Let's have a family killing.
Well, we had the death of Elisa Lam, didn't we, a couple of weeks ago?
That's true. Alright, then we've
We've got Jeffrey Dahmer next week.
What, is he?
Yes,
Are we doing
special guest.
Are we doing necromancy? And we are talking about the White House farm murders in Britain. It was 85, wasn't it? 1985.
Oh, I was just a young sprog.
The show was really good, actually. There's some great nostalgia in there.
Oh, the cars, yeah, looking back.
The old maestros and...
Everything was...
probably even...
It was
older
Rover
than that,
800s for the police cars, which were based on a Ferrari, even
Big
though they were made by Rover.
Big V8 engine in them, weren't they? They were over 800s.
Yeah.
They were monsters. Same engine as the TVR.
Everyone had a V8 back then.
Oh, they were beasts, weren't they? They loved it.
It's,
Petrol wasn't so expensive,
It was
was
just
it?
full of lead. That was
Yep.
your issue. So you can follow us on Facebook at Cutting to the Bull in the Post-Truth Apocalypse, YouTube Apocalypse Bull, and SoundCloud, Spotify, and most other podcasting platforms as Cutting to the Bull in the PTA. Let's thank some new and existing listeners, and then we'll crack on to the White House murders, White House farm murders. Right, what we got? Spring Valley in America, Milton Keynes, UK, Atlanta, Georgia, Västerås in Sweden, Bengaluru in India, Guadalajara in Spain, Dublin, Ireland, Ashburn, Virginia. Thank you very much for listening. So the murders at White House Farm. What happened? Bamber's son, the Bamber family, are own the farm. At the moment there's a husband, wife, June and Neville. We've got Sheila, the sister, and her two twin sons in the house.
And where is the White House farm?
Essex.
Nice part then.
That's where all the fucked up shit happens, isn't it, in Essex?
Yeah, them gangsters got shot in that Range Rover in Essex
Yeah.
as well.
The hauntings and...
That horrible
The
programme,
house.
The Only Way is Essex.
Yeah, that's
Oh
true.
god, yeah. That is the worst thing to ever happen in the world. So fuck me, some major disasters in Essex.
Oh god, yeah. And let's not forget spray tans and white stilettos.
Oh.
It's kind of included with that.
Yeah, I
The
suppose it
only
is.
way. Ugh.
So who were the Bamber Caffel family? Seemingly a happy and well-to-do family from the outside. Neville Bamber was a farmer and former RAF pilot who had married his wife June in 1949. They moved into the White House farm in Trollsund. How'd you say that? Darcy,
Darcy, yeah.
in Essex, which sat among 300 acres of farmland owned by June's father.
Wow.
Let's assume there's a bit of money floating around here.
Yeah.
It ain't cheap, I bet.
No.
£1 million property nowadays, isn't it? That
Easily.
easily.
So, unable to have biological children, the couple adopted Sheila and Jeremy separately as babies. Financially secure, the Bambers were able to give their children a good home and private education. They are rich like farmers can be rich.
And they got a wicked garden to play in.
Phew, just a bit. But June's intense religious beliefs had caused a rift within the family. You don't want a religious, overbearing mother, and that's another reason why I'm going for the son did this. June and Jeremy's relationship was so troubled they were no longer speaking. While Sheila believed her mother disapproved of her, and the pair had a tense relationship. Sheila was a model. Bambi Bamber. In the 80s. Because of her legs, apparently. Bambi. Long legs.
Long legs.
Sheila first got pregnant at 17 and was forced to have an abortion by her parents. She suffered several miscarriages before finally marrying a guy called Colin and giving birth to twin sons Daniel and Nicholas. In the show, right, Colin is literally just wearing dead cow all the time. He's double deadening. Right? I know it's the 80s, it's still unforgivable. And he's got a leather jacket on. He's like wearing like 2 cows at least.
Now, double denim is acceptable in two situations, in the 80s and in the apocalypse.
I don't think it's acceptable in either.
Nah.
I was doing double denim early 2000, late 90s.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
What a faux pas that is.
Denim jackets, man, they were all the rage.
Well, maybe where you were.
In Wales.
There you go, 10 years behind everybody else.
Yeah,
isn't it?
yeah.
Makes sense, I suppose, doesn't
Is that
it?
when you had your perm still as well?
That's natural, mate. There's fuck all I can do about my curly
There's a
hair.
Kevin Keegan perm, that was a problem.
Never had my hair that long. God, could you imagine that? Kevin Keegan perm, mullety style perm. Oh, lovely.
I've seen pictures of my dad with a perm like that.
And my dad.
Couldn't picture your dad with one.
It's the 80s.
She suffered from mental illness, didn't she?
She did, yeah. Massive.
She-
Depression, possibly schizophrenia.
Thing is, when you're forced to fucking have an abortion, shit like that, that's the kind of stuff that damages your fucking brain.
And then having several miscarriages after.
Yeah, she went through it,
Wonders,
didn't she?
yeah.
Bless her.
And having twins, and then Colin had an affair, and the couple split just 5 months after the boys were born.
That fuck ain't gonna help either.
So she's not in the best of mental states.
No.
Enter Jeremy Bamber. He was put up for adoption as a child after his biological mother, a student midwife, had an affair with a married army sergeant. Neville and June adopted Jeremy when he was 6 months old, and they sent him to a range of good schools, including Gresham School, a private boarding school in
Oh, there
Norfolk.
we go.
Yeah,
Sent him to boarding school.
Turns him into psychopath, doesn't it?
usually does. Private schools, don't they? I mean, you went to a private school, Mike.
I didn't.
Oh, boarding school, sorry. There was people there who were private, though, weren't they?
There
They
were
paid.
some, yeah, a few, yeah. But most of it was day school, yeah, normal.
I think anything like boarding school, when they take you out of the home environment, that's going to affect you, isn't it?
I think so.
That's why all these tourists are psychopaths, isn't it?
Not always, not always. My brothers went to boarding school. They didn't go to a boarding school, they went to a normal school, but the boarding house. That was for nearly 4 years, from the age of 11 to 15.
Well, what do they do now?
One's a officer in the army after 25 years, and the other one is a a flight sergeant in the RAF after 23 years.
How many people have they killed?
Oh, fucking... Well...
Maybe the boarding school didn't have an effect.
I think most people that go to boarding school go from 7 to like 16, don't they?
It all depends.
Yeah, so
doesn't
at least
on
they're doing it
circumstance.
legally because they only went for 4 years.
Yeah.
Then it gone from 7 to 16. Oh God.
But no, you know what I mean. That it can have an effect on people, can't it? It's different. You haven't
yeah,
got your
it's got to,
parents,
hasn't it?
things like that. Yeah, but it doesn't affect all.
No, just some. And it's always the worst examples that float to the top, isn't it?
Yeah.
You always find they're foster children, things like that. They've been fostered and they've gone from home to home and things like that. There's a lot of that, isn't there? You get these.
I don't think deeply religious mother is probably not going to help matters.
No.
Because you know she's going to be rubbing in that they fucking you're adopted and we were good enough to take you in kind of thing.
I can understand a deeply religious mother when nobody else in the family is religious. Because I've seen it, I've lived with it kind of thing, and it is hard. Luckily, wasn't pushing her beliefs upon others.
Yeah.
But
But
certainly back then, it
you-
was a lot more rife.
You
wasn't it?
always get one that's a twat though, don't you?
Yeah.
Jeremy was deeply unhappy at Gresham School due to bullying and a sexual assault, so that's not...
It's not what you want, is it?
No. He did later attend sixth form and gained 7 O-levels. It's the equivalent of a GCSE in this country nowadays, isn't it, an O-level?
Yeah.
After his studies, Neville paid for his son to go travelling in Australia and New Zealand. You get the feeling that the dad liked him more than the mum, don't you?
Yeah, but also wanted to make sure he wasn't too close.
Yeah, maybe just get rid of him for a bit.
That's the feeling I got from that. It's like, yeah, we still love you kind of thing. We'll just send you to the other side of the world, literally. Could not be further away.
Yeah. He was a bit of a lad, apparently, when he was out there travelling.
Whee.
Scuba diving, breaking into jewellers, smuggling heroin.
Maybe not so much. Whee. Maybe... Oh.
And when he returned home in 1982, Jeremy's father continued to provide for him. He set him up with a cottage, a car, a percentage of a family company, and even gave him a job which he was paid £170 a week for. In 1985,
That was a
that's
fair
a
chunk.
decent amount of money.
Yeah.
That's an £800 a week job now, that is. literally like
And a percentage of company that he could take dividends from at the end of the financial year, or you know.
I'm already starting to feel suspicious of this dude.
Yeah, when you consider they've done nothing for the daughter. Well, I tell you what, they set her up in a flat
in London.
In London, and that was about it. No, the night of August the 6th, 1985. The police first found out about the murder of June, Neville, Sheila, Nicholas and Daniel, the two boys, in the early hours of the 7th of August. Jeremy Bamber telephoned his local police station, not 999, and told the police he had received a phone call from his father saying Sheila had, quote, gone berserk with a gun, and that the line went dead in the middle of the call. After calling the police, it was called the local police office.
Yeah, well, I was going to emphasise on that, the local police station in 1985 in England.
Hey, at least it's manned, it's not anymore.
But in those days, that would have been basically a house. It had been like a little cottage in the middle of nowhere.
A cottage with a cell and a break room.
Exactly, and it would have had a copper that lived there with his wife and his child, maybe, if he had children, but they'd live there and they'd literally...
At the back.
This was 1985, not 1885.
You
don't know if it was
remember,
that
you remember
backward, was it?
Heartbeat, for instance.
That's in the 60s.
That was in the 60s.
Yeah, but it wasn't much different back then either. In the 80s, it was
I
still
suppose in a
quite
rural
similar
place.
then. And they're in quite a rural place.
Yeah.
That's what it would have been for them. It would have been, they phoned the local Bobby, and it would have been as quaint as that. Like, you think Heartbeat, the programme, wouldn't have been far off that, I wouldn't imagine. So it tells you that he really wasn't trying to fucking get any help for his family.
Alright, let's also break it down. Someone in the house is going berserk with a gun, allegedly. You're going to need a firearms unit.
Yeah.
You've been shot yourself, you've seen your family get shot.
Yeah, and because at this point he should have been bleeding out from several gunshot wounds.
Mm.
And he's like, oh, I won't call 999, I'll call me son.
That's strange, and then the son not phoning 999 and phoning the local police station. He had to look up the number
Yeah.
in the yellow pages, and right below it in the advert it says, in an emergency call 999.
There's nothing about that doesn't say emergency, is there?
The yellow
Really?
pages on.
Yeah. You had to do it back in the day, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Oh
Yeah,
man, remember phone books?
Yeah,
Remember every business was like Aardvark because they wanted to be first on the list.
Yeah.
A1 or something like that.
That's why the AA is called the AA.
Is it? Yeah.
Yeah, fucking right it is. The AA in our country is
The
car
Automobile
breakdown.
Association. Yeah, he's called the local police station. The 3 police officers go up to the farm with him because they've got no weapons. This is England. Our police aren't armed. All they can do.
Well, they have truncheons.
Well, they'd have been solid truncheons back then as well.
You want a truncheon?
I will go run it in with a
I'm
truncheon.
going to say, yeah.
No.
You want a truncheon when you're facing a rifle, don't you?
Yeah, man.
We don't want to face them without this.
Spin it round like that and it protects you.
I'd rather have a 6-inch steel pole. That'll do.
I'm sure it's a farm. I bet there was one somewhere.
That'll do.
So they have to wait until 5 a.m. for the tactical firearms unit to arrive. They then used a load hailer to try and communicate with Sheila for 2 hours, but the only sound reported from the house was a dog barking. Jeremy was reported to have been calm outside the property and explained that his father called him rather than the police to keep things in the family. She's gone berserk with a gun. People have been shot, presumably. He certainly has.
Just keep it in the family, though.
Keep it in the family. I'll be
Don't worry
fine.
about it. It'll be
So,
okay.
'Tis but a scratch.
Don't want to embarrass the family name now.
That'll be what it is.
Yeah.
Yes, let's keep it in the family. Yeah.
Well, that's not what it is it? Let's face it. That's what he's pretending
Yeah,
it
that's
is.
what he's
Yeah. That's
Don't
how
you-
it seems anyway to
Yeah.
me.
Yeah.
But don't you think 2 hours is a bit much?
Well, it's how long it takes the firearm.
No, they've arrived at this point. They arrived at 5 a.m.
Oh,
and
then
they're using a
loud
load
hailing
hailer
for 2 hours.
for 2 hours. You might as well, once you're there and you figured out your plan of approach, you might as well just go straight in, hadn't you?
But you got to remember how fucking stupidly careful we are as far as armed police goes. We are like we're not like the Americans who just fucking kick down the door like, "Freeze, shoot, go, 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 go."
They're here to serve and protect as we shoot your parents.
I'd have at least directed our lot to be looking in the windows and having a
Well,
peek like.
This is where we learn
They
from the
did
mistakes.
see, apparently, a movement in one of the windows, didn't they?
They thought they
They
did.
thought they did.
Right.
Obviously, they didn't because everybody was dead in the house at this point. Could have been the shadow of the dog, because the dog was...
Well, yeah, the dog was around, yeah, of course. But yeah, you're right. 2 hours.
2 hours is a bit much.
Yeah.
You know, so get yourself kitted up.
Fucking breach, get in
Bit
there.
of a recce. Breach, get in there. 2 hours is a bit long. When officers finally entered the family home, they were shocked to find the bloodied members of the Bamber Caffel family in multiple rooms of the property. Neville was found in the kitchen. He'd been shot 8 times in a scene suggesting a struggle. He'd also had his head bashed in by the butt of the rifle. Next to the phone, by the way, his body was found. June was laying on the floor of the master bedroom, covered in a pool of blood, and she had been shot 7 times, once between the eyes.
It's a fucking lot of
7.
loading a rifle, innit?
This has got a 20-round magazine. It's only a 2.2.
Fucking
It's a
hell.
10-round mag, isn't it? Sorry, 10-round
Was
mag.
it?
Because whoever did it had to reload. Daniel and Nicholas were found in their beds in their own bedroom. Both had been shot whilst in bed.
How old were they?
5.
Oh.
Sheila was found in the master bedroom with her mother, and she had bullet wounds under her chin. She's got 2 wounds. She's been left with the rifle on top of her, and she's got 2 wounds under the chin. One is a flesh wound that sort of went through the neck, and the other's a kill shot.
So you'd think if it was her, as suggested, she's turned it on herself, not done it right the first time,
Yeah.
and then shot again.
Immediately,
done it
that's what
right.
the police thought, yeah. Murder-suicide.
Yeah, murder-suicide, case closed.
Yeah.
Well, the
Simple, isn't it, really? Obvious.
All the doors and windows were locked, nobody could have got in and out.
Yeah, so it was all locked up from the inside. Everything was locked from the inside.
Claire?
So there's 2 wounds. The one wound could be from a struggle, no?
It could have been that he fucked up the first shot. I mean,
Yeah, all fucked up the first shot.
Yeah,
but, you know,
you
we're looking
flinch
at
at the
all.
last minute because you're like, you're going to kill yourself.
Yeah.
Sheila
Or
is
in the struggle with the others.
The person that actually did the
picked
killing.
Up, well, yeah, she's picked up the wound somewhere else. You know.
Could be.
Yeah. She was on a lot of medication for mental illnesses, and
A bit of cannabis as well.
yeah, a little bit of cannabis too, probably. Mental health medicine in the 80s, in 1985, is going to remember to what? Lithium.
Yeah.
Just puts you in a zombie-like state, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Is she capable of doing all this while she's on these drugs?
That's the question, isn't it? Could
She's
have
on. Is that what she's on then?
She's on antipsychotics, yeah, with lithium, and God, there's another one, isn't there? Valium.
Right. Okay.
Just to mong you out. That was the
Yeah, they
extent
do.
of mental health treatment in the 80s.
Yeah.
Just to mong you out.
And it showed that she had it in her system within the past few days,
Yeah.
along with cannabis.
So a doctor who was called to the house testified the deaths could have occurred at any time during the night, and he said that Jeremy Bamber appeared to be in a state of shock. He had broken down, cried, and seemed to vomit when told the news about his family. The doctor said that Jeremy had told him about a discussion the family had had about possibly placing Sheila's sons into foster care, even though Colin, her ex-husband, had custody of them. Well, Sheila used to have them at the weekends or every now and again. He had them weekdays. Which is a bit much, really, because June, the mother, is like, oh, well, we'll get the church to foster them out. You can't look after them, dear.
What about the dad?
Well,
Just don't give him the option of.
Yeah,
like,
pretty
you know.
much, yeah. We've got the money in this situation.
And this was the 80s.
Yeah.
Dads weren't.
Well, they could afford
Like
to get
they
a
are now.
nanny in, couldn't they?
But is that a lie that's Jeremy's told? It's only his word about it.
This is the whole fabrication, isn't it?
Yeah.
There we go. If he's saying, oh, you
That's
know,
why she did it.
yeah, there's a motive for it. She's done it because of this.
And, initially, Sheila was in the frame for the murders, largely due to the testimony of her brother's phone call from their father, in which case Neville supposedly said Sheila had gone berserk.
And now, in the 80s, the police couldn't trace the calls, couldn't.
No.
It was only outside, sort of non-local calls that could be traced. So they didn't know that the exact time of the phone calls. They couldn't look at the records and things like that.
How things have come on.
Just a bit.
Sheila had been struggling with mental health, suffering from schizophrenia and being admitted to an hospital for mental health. A doctor wrote that she believed that the devil had given her the power to project evil onto others and that she could make her sons have sex and cause violence with her. Weird.
Yeah, she was very ill, wasn't she?
Oh yeah. Blood and urine samples indicated Sheila had taken haloperidol, which is used to treat schizophrenia, and several days earlier had used cannabis, which makes you feel good. Probably not the two you want fighting out in your body though, is it?
Especially when you are psychotic as well.
Yeah.
When you're prone to it, you don't take like.
Let's face it,
But
1985, cannabis is the devil's lettuce.
But it doesn't last for days, does it?
No.
The effects. So I think we can rule that out as an immediate.
Oh, I wasn't suggesting cannabis had made a killer family.
Yeah.
God no.
Have you seen, in 1985, they might have, the propaganda surrounding the demonisation of marijuana.
Like you said, devil's lettuce. That's what it got its name from.
She smoked pot, therefore she killed her family.
I remember in the late 90s, pot was like still being demonised.
Oh, it's always been demonised.
And then it lost its name as pot. And people, because nobody calls it pot anymore, do they?
No, they don't. No.
And it seems to have been less demonised. I think pot didn't help it.
Well, 2 weeks after the murders, Jeremy's girlfriend told police that he had implicated himself in the crimes. So he basically bragged to her that he'd done it and had often considered doing it for the inheritance. He used to sort of go through hypothetical methods of, how he'd do it. Is that
If I was to
OJ's
do it,
book?
what would I do?
He was basically doing OJ's book to her, to his girlfriend.
What, he'd actually speak them out loud or actually just think about it?
He'd be like, I could go through the back and, make it look like someone just broke in kind of thing.
So he had 4-4.
Yeah. Apparently, at first he thought about burning the house down with him inside,
Fuck's sake.
but then he was like, "Oh, but then I can't inherit the house because it'll be burnt down."
Yeah,
so that's
and
no good.
where's the wills and whatever in the house?
He was having these conversations with his girlfriend.
He
sort of
dumps
weeks and
her.
months before.
2 weeks later, 2 weeks after the murders, and she goes to the police.
Yeah.
And there was a significant amount of inheritance tied up in the immediate and extended family, which provided as a motive for the killings. The Bamber's company, N&J Bamber Limited, was worth £400,000 in 1985, more than £1.2 million today.
So that was just the company.
That's just the one, yeah.
Let alone the house that they owned.
House and the
Farm
land.
and the land, 300 fucking acres. Jesus, that'd be worth a bit today.
Yep. During the murder trial, the court heard that in their wills, June left £230,000 and Neville left £380,000 to their children, which was to be divided equally.
So he was gonna coin it in anyway, wasn't he?
So he gets the business, he gets the
Yeah,
farm.
we have to wait till they die for that.
Yeah, what's wrong with that?
Well, that could be 20, 30 years. You don't know.
He wants it now.
And he kills all of them because then he's the only, the sole heir to it all. Otherwise, you'd have to share it out between Sheila. Sheila's not around her children, so he kills them all. He's the only heir.
Yep.
Big motive there, isn't it?
Yeah, greed.
Huge
It's just
motive.
greed, isn't it?
Of course it is,
Huge
yeah.
motive.
Bamber's behaviour before and after the funerals increased suspicion, as he was said to be sobbing during the service, yet laughing and joking during the wake.
That's not unusual.
Yes, in like, oh, Granny's dead.
Yeah, I
Maybe
suppose.
not. Not my whole family's been brutally murdered in a farmhouse.
Yeah.
But I think every wake I've ever been to, no matter what the circumstances of the death, we always have a laugh at a wake, don't we?
Well, that's because you turned up in a Batman costume.
Well, that's my piece, obviously. Just to break the ice.
Classic owner fools and horses.
Sheila, Jeremy and 3 other prints are all found on the murder weapon, and there were scenes of a struggle at the mantelpiece in the sitting room. That's obviously where Neville had his skull bashed in with the butt of the rifle. She was believed to have been too slight in frame to overpower her father in the struggle that would have ensued. Farmer strength
Yeah.
from Neville, versus model who's smacked off her tits on lithium.
Was she 7 stone?
Something like that. She's not a lot. She's very slim, very slender. So, is there a possibility of a miscarriage of justice? Jeremy Bamber has always maintained his innocence throughout the trial and the aftermath of his sentencing, even though he is only one of 75 people in this country who are sentenced to life is life.
Yeah.
We have varying degrees of sentencing in the UK, listener, if you're not from here. So life is in you're in there till you die, but if you're just given life, it can mean 25 years.
But you get out after 14 if you've been good.
Yeah, if you show, what's the word I'm looking for? You've been rehabilitated, if they think you've been rehabilitated. Because that's the whole point of the prison system, isn't it? Rehabilitate people.
Most of the time in this country, you get given a sentence and you will serve half of it. If you behave and do what you're meant to do whilst in prison, you'll serve half of your prison sentence.
Yeah,
unless you've been given life, you'd be due for parole after 14 years and things like that. But yeah, but then you do get life, full life, no chance of release, and that's what he got, wasn't it?
It is. The police were very keen to say murder-suicide because it looks good, doesn't it? You've got a horrific slaying of a family who were well-to-do as well, so obviously society cares more. And you can go, well, murder-suicide case closed, jobs are good, and look at us, aren't we efficient?
It's easier as well, isn't it?
Yeah.
There's not as much paperwork, is there? You haven't got to bring somebody to justice, things like that, because they're dead.
Yeah.
It's like it's almost an open shut case, right? Yeah, murder suicide. There's nothing that can be done. No one can be punished. That's it. We'll auction house or whatever. In the circumstances, give it to the son.
He'll get it. Yeah. He was convicted of the killings by a jury at Chelmsford Crown Court. Yes, Jeremy Bamber, convicted of the killings by a jury at Chelmsford Crown Court on October 28th, 1986. And he's obviously doing his full life stint in Wakefield Prison in Yorkshire.
Not a nice prison either.
Is it not?
Wakefield, no. It's one of the high security, nasty prisons where compared to a lot of countries, no, it's not fucking nasty, but it's not a nice prison.
Well, yeah.
It's full of some of the worst in our country.
Well, if he's guilty of this, then that's probably...
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Lock him up, bread and water, in a cell on his own.
Yeah. Well, that's it.
Wow.
It'll be pretty much.
No, let's go back to Victorian prisons.
It'll be almost solitary confinement with like only a few hours out of his cell a day.
I reckon that's one of the worst punishments, solitary, especially extended.
I don't know. I just fucking sleep. I love it.
He certainly ain't gonna.
Finally, it's just a catch him on some sleep.
He's certainly not gonna have cellmates.
Okay.
People like that generally, they're on their own in a cell and they get let out a few days. They might get to socialise with other inmates, but like I said, you're in with the worst kind of people in that scenario.
What are you going to talk about?
Not the kind of people you want to be hanging around with, especially if you're innocent.
I was going to say, and he's upper crust, isn't he?
Yeah, God, he's right tough.
Certainly high upper middle class, isn't he?
He'd be right tough compared to anyone in prison.
Yeah.
Mostly.
More than likely, yeah.
More toffs in prison, I say.
Starting with a few Tories.
Yeah,
bankers, let's get them in there.
Yeah.
Let's get the bankers in there. Let's get the Tories in there. You know, that made the country a lot better.
Sticking with the pedos and the rapists.
In a Victorian prison.
In a dungeon.
Yeah. Now, Bamber has appealed his conviction several times and the case has been subjected to reviews by the Criminal Case Review Commission. Essex police say there's never been any evidence to suggest he has been wrongly convicted. But what are some of the key issues argued by Bamber's defence at trial? And by campaigners, because he has got people on his side. And one of the key arguments is whether the gun had a silencer on it when the murders were committed. It's a 2.2 rifle. It's an Anschutz semi-automatic rifle. It's going to make a bang. And that's going to... And the issue you've got with house slayings is what?
The other people hearing the first shot and going, what the fuck?
Yeah. Other people in the other room.
Let's say he does the kids first, then his parents are going to hear that.
Yeah.
Sheila's going to hear it.
Come running up the stairs.
Now, we don't know the order in which they were killed, in all fairness.
No. You would assume dad, mum, kids.
But the dad was injured and managed to run downstairs and get to the phone.
Yeah, and that's where the reload would have taken place, which is probably why his skull was battered and then shot again.
But Jeremy claims that he left the gun sort of in the kitchen, leaning up against the wall, wasn't it?
Yes, he was going to shoot some rabbits.
Yeah.
He overheard a conversation where the parents were going to adopt out Sheila's boys, and he became so sort of distressed he just kind of left the gun and went. He forgot about it. That was his
And
thing.
he was saying, "Oh, I blame myself because I left the gun loaded and she used it."
But you know, got that reload in there.
But yeah, so did the gun have a silencer on it?
Also, worth pointing out that the Anschutz rifle was too long for Sheila to have shot herself. She couldn't have put the barrel, well, with the silencer on.
Couldn't have stuck it under her chin and still pulled the trigger.
No.
Could have done it with her toe.
Potentially, but I think that after that first wounding shot, you're going to reevaluate things if you're doing it with your toe.
Yeah.
Jump out the window head first or something.
I don't know. She couldn't have pulled the trigger. She might have used a toe. She couldn't have used it. Couldn't have pulled it with her hands.
It
let's put it that
certainly
way.
wouldn't have been fucking easy in any way,
And
shape, or
isn't-
form.
It's very fucking awkward to get your toe up there to pull that trigger.
Well, was it found with a silencer on it then?
No.
No.
So, presumably, there was no silencer attached. So that could say she could have pulled the trigger on herself.
She
Yes.
could have, but then would you go downstairs, put the silencer back in the cabinet?
Yeah, because the silencer was found 3 days later by one of Bamber's cousins in the gun cupboard.
Had it been...
So, if it was used, yeah,
It had been
she
cleaned.
killed all her family with it. Then she tried to kill herself, realised that she couldn't, took the silencer off, went back downstairs, put the silencer away, and back upstairs to kill herself.
No, that's not going to
Doesn't make sense, does it?
No.
Because there was blood on the silencer.
So there's evidence that the silencer was used
Well,
throughout it.
There's blood on
Well,
its
it's
inside
still
and outside
sort of sure it could have
surface.
been blood from the rabbits or whatever. But
They couldn't figure out what blood it was.
Yeah.
Right.
Whose blood it
Nowadays,
was.
no problem.
probably, yeah, they did do some tests on it, but it was inconclusive, wasn't it?
Yeah.
But there was a hair on the silencer as well, but that got lost during the process. I know.
Terrible, terrible policing.
Well, they had it down as that murder-suicide, Clair.
They started burning all the evidence.
Yeah.
They
They
were
got all the
burning.
bloody clothes and the bedding and everything
Yeah.
and burnt it in the backyard.
Bodies were
Yeah.
carried out, no crime scene photography done. Murder-suicide, nice and simple. Press are out there, we've got 5 dead bodies and our family's been slain. We need this to go away as quickly as possible so they can't expose us for doing a good or bad, or will be perceived as a bad job. Get them out, murder-suicide jobs are good. And
Bodies cremated, so you can't dig up the bodies later. Fresh evidence.
Further analysis.
Yeah.
No.
that was at Bamber's insistence the bodies were cremated, by the way.
How's he going to have any bearing on that? Why would you let him have any bearing on that?
Because it's his decision. He's the
He was the family.
He's next of
Yeah,
kin,
yeah,
he's the
that's
executive of the estate now. He
He'd have
can,
been kind of rubbing his hands together when they give him that choice.
yeah. It's
Yeah.
not unusual for people to request cremation, is it?
No.
Police were not immediately alerted, but the silencer was collected on August 12th, and when analysed it revealed blood on its inside and outside surface. The outside sample was not enough to allow analysis, but the blood on the inside was discovered to be the same blood group as Sheila's, although it could have been a mixture of Neville's and June's. The prosecution argued that if Sheila had shot her mum, dad and sons with a silencer, then realised the gun was way too long to shoot herself, the silencer would have been found next to her body. The former model had no reason to return to the gun cupboard before going back upstairs to shoot herself. Also, the way that these were done, like the kids' shots were quite well grouped to the chest. You've got to know what you're doing with a firearm.
Well, 7, you know, a lot. There was a lot of shots per body.
Yeah.
I find.
Yes, but it's only a 2-2 round.
2-2
Which-
on.
A
lethal.
headshot,
Oh,
yes,
okay.
Yeah.
but to a body shot, I wouldn't like to.
You could survive a few shots, couldn't you?
It's-
Unless
it's-
it hits you in the right place.
They're a very small
Right.
round, and Neville is probably bleeding out as he's bleeding out as he's talking on the phone.
The bullets are about what would enter the body. You know the 2-2 air rifles you get.
Yeah.
It's one of them, but it'd be like a solid little bullet.
Yeah.
And that's at the end of the small case that it would shoot from. So
Right,
it's projected
okay.
with an actual, as opposed to being air or spring like an air rifle. It is.
It's a full metal jacket.
It does have the full metal jacket, so it is gunpowder.
It's the
Powered.
stuff they use for target shooting, Claire.
Right. I thought it. Oh,
You know, when
I
they do
thought it was
the-
going to be a bit more sort of.
No, it's
You
a
know.
shoot. They're ideal for shooting rabbits.
Yeah, pop a rabbit's head with one of them, wouldn't
Yeah,
you?
quite comfortably.
You hit somebody between the eyes with them.
Oh, headshots will be fatal because the bullet's not big enough to exit, so it just zips around inside the skull.
So why didn't the killer just go for headshots? It just seems a bit more...
Headshots, you can't pull off a perfect headshot every time if you're just a farmer.
And if people are moving.
Well, what about the kids in the bed? They weren't moving, were they?
No, they weren't.
No?
He just obviously wasn't savvy enough to think about
Or
killing
she.
them quick.
Or she?
Or she.
I think we're pretty confident this Jeremy. I'm leaning on...
I'm kind of on the
leaning-
Jeremy side of this.
He also claims to the police that she'd done target shooting, and then it was she'd been on some shoots,
And then it was she's barely held a rifle.
she's barely ever held a rifle. She's a model. She was, you know.
The rifle was probably as big as her, for God's sake.
She
She didn't even chip a nail or nothing.
on the reload. Everyone
Yeah.
fucking bruises their fingers or doing something on reloading.
So
If
I'm
that-
leaning towards that. It was him, obviously, but I guess we'll never really know.
No.
Now, in 2012, Bamber's lawyers commissioned experts to examine crime scene photographs and silencer evidence. They argued the injuries on the bodies were consistent with the silencer not being used. So how does the blood get on the silencer? They also argued the absence of the silencer would explain 3 circular burn marks which had been found on Neville's back. What if at this point Neville's the last one alive? He's crawled downstairs.
Yeah.
While he's finishing Sheila, he's got Sheila out of her zombified state, stood her up, bang, fucked the first shot, bang, done it again, she's down, goes downstairs, finds his old man, managed to get himself down to the phone, before he can do anything, smack, reload, finish him off.
Yeah.
Is he taking the silencer off there?
I would take this, I would go down,
Because
finish
of the burn marks on the
finish
back.
Neville off, maybe take this, because if everyone else is dead at that point, you don't need the silencer.
Yeah.
Do
Maybe
you?
that's when he took it or she took it off. Killed him, put it away.
But then again, I'd still argue that the silencers, after firing 20 odd
It's
rounds,
going to be pretty hot.
are going to get pretty hot. Because you're still expelling the superheated gas out of the barrel.
At a few hundred miles an hour, which in itself
Could have cooled it there with a cold
Friction.
tap, perhaps.
Well, give it a
I don't
minute.
think
He's
you-
not in a rush, is he?
That would have most
But what
likely washed most of the blood away.
Yeah, maybe that. There you go.
Maybe that's a possibility.
Tried to do that, but left someone inside.
Didn't rinse it thoroughly.
No.
Well, I'd imagine that silencer would be quite warm. He'd have to get something to protect his hand as he took it off.
Cloth, tea towel.
Yeah. Everything was burnt. You could just throw that tea towel down into a pile of blood. As if say, oh, Neville was trying to staunch his wounds with something. Who knows? I don't know about a tea towel being found.
They also say that following the murders, the crime scene was not secured properly and the house was not searched thoroughly.
Then after the verdict, the media did not hold back in its condemnation of Essex police. The Times wrote about blunders, omissions and ineptitude. That's a damning statement.
Back right in it now.
While the Daily Mail referred to the Clouseau squad of detectives in the case. DCS James Dickinson led the internal review and his 300-page report expressed regret that DCI Thomas Taff Jones, who died before the trial started in 1986 and believed Bamber innocent, was no longer able to account for his decision. So at the time, shut the fuck up, it's a murder-suicide. All of a sudden we start looking at this, we start looking at Jeremy, we get that confession of his girlfriend.
The silence is found.
Silence and found. He can't back up, or Taff Jones, DCI Taff, can't
He's
justify
backed
the
himself.
decisions he's made. He's backed
Yeah.
himself that much into a corner.
Yeah,
It's like, well, shit.
yeah. Because if it isn't her, then fuck off, let the bodies be released to be cremated.
I've burnt the
Burn the
evidence.
evidence in the backyard. Oh, fuck. So he's got to stick to... He's got
Stick to his guns,
He
isn't
has,
he?
hasn't he? He's got to hope that...
He's going to hope that somehow it's all going to come out rosy for him. And he died before the trial started, sadly so. The defence argued the first officers to enter the farmhouse had disturbed the crime scene and then reconstructed it.
That wouldn't surprise me.
In 2010, a report from a forensic photographic expert commissioned by the defence, the argument was made that the scratch marks in the red paintwork on the kitchen mantelpiece had been created after the crime scene photographs had been taken. The prosecution argued the marks had been made during the struggle in the kitchen between Bamber and Neville as a silencer scratched against the mantelpiece.
Oh, so the silencer's on again.
Silencer's back. Paint chips identical to the paint on the mantelpiece have been found on or inside the silencer, according to prosecution. Interesting, I'll say that. I personally still think you'll never find out about scratch marks. What are you going to do? You'll never. That's going to be there. Them, they could argue that for eternity. No one's going to figure that out.
Well, the expert argued scratch marks appeared on the photographs taken on the 10th of September, but were not seen in the original photographs.
Well, you'd have
So
to
were
take
made after the murder.
You'd have to take the original, wouldn't you? Anything from the 10th of September, you'd have to discount, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
Yeah, they're seen in the September the 10th, but not in the original. So it's got to have happened after the murders, hasn't it?
Yeah.
Surely.
Yeah.
I don't know if that exonerates Jimmy Bamber or not.
No, I don't.
Well, they wouldn't want it to, would they?
Well, they do want it to. They're
The
fighting to get him
defendants,
off,
aren't they? Yeah.
Another key prosecution argument was that Neville Bamber did not call the police. So we got one for Jeremy at this point, and one in the Jeremy column at this point, against 5 or 6 for me personally. Another key prosecution argument was that Neville Bamber did not call the police. Bamber had always claimed his father called him to say Sheila had gone berserk with the gun, and campaigners say a telephone record shows that Neville also called the police that night. Bamber's campaigners claim Neville's telephone phone call was made at 3:26, 10 minutes before Bamber called Chelmsford Police Station. A separate log of a police radio message revealed there was an attempt to speak to someone inside the farmhouse that night as police waited outside to enter, but there was no response. So Neville may well have tried to call the police, or certainly was interrupted during the call, and then 10 minutes later Jeremy's on the phone to him.
In the series, they said that the telephone records didn't exist, so I'm a bit confused about that.
There'd be police logs
Oh, right, yeah.
in that scenario. That's what his defence are arguing. There's still reasonable doubt, and remember, you were prosecuted.
Yeah, it's beyond reasonable doubt, isn't it?
You know, if there's reasonable doubt, you can't say someone's guilty. I don't think there's enough there for me. I don't think Sheila
Relies heavily on the testimony of the girlfriend.
I don't think there is enough evidence to have someone in prison for life. There isn't enough evidence there, and if that's how you believe the law should run, strictly by evidence, which I kind of do believe that, because innocent until proven guilty. If you've never been proven guilty, you need evidence to prove somebody guilty. If you've never got the evidence, how can you prove the guilt?
reasonable doubt.
Remember, it's a jury that decide it.
Yes, but that's what. But I do think that giving somebody a full life sentence without evidence is a bit.
I think a lot of it points to him. I mean, he was stood to gain the most with everybody dead.
You can't convict somebody on that, though.
No.
Don't get me wrong. I do still think I'm on the side of Jeremy doing it.
I mean, you got the phone. I just don't, physically, I don't think Sheila can do it. Oh, I did mention it earlier.
Yeah.
The house appeared to obviously be locked from the inside, doors, windows, but there was that broken window at the back with a latch that you could, if you slammed it shut from the outside, would just sort of drop into place.
Right.
So someone could have.
Somebody that lives there would know
Jeremy
that.
could have left the latch up.
He would know that, yeah.
Window open, gone in,
Yeah.
opened the window, climbed himself in, done the business, back out.
Because if there was no evidence that anybody could have got in, then you'd think it'd have to be Sheila, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
But
that is
weeks
evidence,
later they found this latch.
and that is evidence that it's possible that
Yeah.
somebody
That
could
leaves
get
it
out.
open, and doesn't it?
And get in.
Yeah.
More
Getting in.
importantly, get in.
Well, getting in's not the problem because he
Yeah, he'd
lived
have
there.
the key, yeah.
He'd be there anyway. He's just done it all, locked up everything.
No, he doesn't live there.
Oh no.
Yeah, but he still has access to the house, doesn't
Oh, he'd
he?
probably have a key.
And in
I thought.
1985, chances of the doors being locked pretty fucking slim.
Oh no, they were locked.
They might have been bolted as well, maybe.
No, but I'm saying the chances of him having to get in through an obscure way, highly unlikely. He was probably able to just walk in an unlocked front door and say, "Hi, Mum and Dad." Do you know what I mean? It's the 80s. He lived wherever he fucking lived, in the middle of absolutely nowhere, in the middle of a 300-acre fucking farmland. There weren't people walking into his house that weren't invited, were there?
And he's armed to the teeth like most farmers are.
Yeah, but people didn't. In the 80s, you didn't lock your front door all the time.
Well, if you have no alibi as well.
No. This is it. There's a lot that point towards him. There's the ability that he could have easily fucking got in normally, locked everywhere up after he killed everyone, jumped out the window that he knows can lock itself.
Yeah.
Easy.
And the fact that he was like, you know, scheming
Yeah.
with his ex. That doesn't sit well, does it?
No.
You know, you don't talk about people like that. They're people, you know.
You don't talk about
and they're
killing
fucking family.
You don't talk about killing your adoptive family, who have, in all fairness, tried to give you the best they can in life. You've gone to a private school.
Yeah.
You've been allowed to do what you want for a bit. Now you've got to come back and work on the farm.
You're travelling.
Where you're working, £170 a week in the fucking 1985 was good money.
Yeah.
No rent. He's got a car.
Got it made, hasn't
A
he?
little cottage.
And he'd stole £1,000 or near enough that from his parents before. Like a year before. Nicked it from the business out of petty cash. He admitted to that, didn't he?
He did.
He said he was teaching his parents a lesson because of lack of security.
That's
Yeah.
terrible. What a mentality.
Yeah.
That kind of gives you a clue about his mentality as well, doesn't it?
Well, sometimes you try and do the best for people, but they're just a bit screwed in the
I
head.
think they were extremely unlucky, this couple,
Yeah.
because the children they had adopted.
I think you can possibly put some
Both.
blame onto the overbearing religious mother for making the children nervous wrecks of
Maybe.
people.
Potentially.
Maybe it's genetic from the original parents.
Could be. I mean, she was schizophrenic. That's inherited, isn't it? To a point.
I think there's evidence to suggest.
Can be environmental as well.
I think you need both.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think he did it. I think that Jeremy did it. I think Sheila can fucking pull that trigger, shoot all them people, and then herself, and overpower her dad. Overpower her dad.
What if she thought?
I mean,
you know,
I know he's been
she's
shot.
schizophrenic and she thinks they're demons.
Yeah, I know, but he's still he's a farmer. He's a strong bloke.
Yeah, but shoots him at first.
Shoots him, but he still managed to get up and go downstairs. And when that adrenaline's pumping, and then hers is pumping, but still, she weighs nothing compared to him. I know you can have like crazy strength if you're on one, but she's had the medication anyway, the antipsychotics. She's in her system. She shouldn't have been reacting like that.
Yeah, this is it, isn't it? That's where it does make you think. Well,
And the cannabis. I never thought about shooting anybody after.
After having a toke.
stoned and disorderly doesn't happen, does it?
No,
Drunken disorderly, on the other hand, yeah.
you don't see
Smacked up and yeah.
You don't see many potheads having fights.
No.
And she's she is a model in 1985. She's very thin. She's quite slight. Rifles are big, heavy. This is
Yeah.
30 pound of.
Has she got the
metal.
strength to shoot like I don't know. I don't know, to be fair, if there's any missed shots, any missed bullets. If all the bullets are in the bodies, then she's a fucking amazing shot.
Yeah.
And
I think the evidence stacks up against him more than
It does, doesn't
for
it?
me.
and his behaviour, you can't. I mean, there's laughing. There's distant relatives laughing and joking at the wake, but you ain't laughing and joking if your mum, dad, sister, and nephews have all been brutally slain in their beds.
Yeah.
You ain't laughing and joking about that at the wake, are you?
No. Nah.
You know, you're going to be over it a bit, but you're going to be a bit, unless you're a complete fucking sociopath, which I suspect he might be. But you're still going to be pretty somber. It's going to take some time to get over this one, isn't it? Not
Yeah,
a couple of weeks.
Yeah, it's not just one person, is it?
You know, plus you've got Colin, the dad, who's obviously lost his sons and his ex-wife.
Yeah.
You know, he's lost his 2 5-year-old boys. That's fucking devastating. Are you ever going to recover from that mentally? It's always going to be the back of your mind, isn't it?
It wasn't Colin then.
No.
You didn't mention Colin, did he get a look over, did he?
Denim man.
Yeah.
Cow man, even. Yeah,
Poor bugger, he's the one that dropped the kids off at the house.
Oh.
You know what I mean? And the next night they're slaughtered.
And they didn't even want to go. The one didn't, did they? He said the one didn't want to go. Didn't like the grandmother.
Tragedy all round, really.
It's a shitter. We don't get many slayings like this in the UK,
No.
though. And it's one I hadn't heard of until I watched the show.
No, I hadn't know.
Thank fuck, really.
Yeah.
There was that one a few years ago that.
Dunblane.
No, we had a
That
taxi
wasn't
driver with a shotgun, didn't we, go around?
Oh, that was local. We do get them. There was
Not
the
very
guy
often,
who
though.
killed his family and fucking burnt his farm down, wasn't there?
I remember that got two
not-
girls, did he? Or?
Yeah, not that many years ago, and it wasn't that far from here, was it?
Yeah.
It was like
Shropshire
local
area.
Shropshire
I was like,
area.
oh,
Yeah.
crikey, that's right on the doorstep, isn't it?
We did have we didn't have a shooting, we had a stabbing.
There's
There
always
was that
stabbing,
gangster
yeah.
that was shot in
I
Horsey.
personally know fucking I've personally met 2 murderers
Well, there's
in
that,
my life.
there was that London gangster that was shot in Horsey.
He was shot, yeah, he was shot. I was a drive-by, he come up here, hadn't he?
He sat
Try and hide.
outside like a gym thing, wasn't he? Or something
Yeah,
in
it's the gym on
Horsey.
that industrial estate, and they did a drive-by on him.
Shot him. It's like, what the just round the corner from where I was working, literally at the time as well, because I was driving my Iceland van. I was in Dorley, and Horsey's literally the next little village along. Happened in the day and everything.
Yeah, they just drove by. Well, don't fuck about.
No. Yeah, mad. Yeah.
No, so where we all sitting, I'm going Jeremy did it.
Yeah, he's got a dodgy look in his eye for me.
I'm glad
got
you're
that-
not on a jury. Oh yeah, he had a dodgy look in his eye, guilty.
He just looks a bit normal and he's got a dodgy look in his eye, and the fact that he's chatting about killing his family anyway and thinking about
Well,
it.
you've only got that from the girlfriends.
You could be
Just a
scorned.
a
Yeah.
woman
scorned,
scorned is, you know-
spiteful bitch.
Yeah.
Hell hath no fury, yeah.
Yeah. Hell hath no fury to the woman scorned. No.
Big-
But
Oh, sorry, go on, Claire.
there isn't enough evidence when you know
To get him
Probably
off, or there's enough evidence to get him
Either
off.
either or. It's scammed.
I think I'm with Claire on that. Like, there isn't enough evidence either way. But at the same time, I do still think he did it.
Yeah, I'm with Pete, yeah.
It's just the physical struggle and the shooting. Someone who knew how to handle a weapon did that shooting.
Yeah. Not a frail little 7 stone.
He was doped up to the eyeballs on lithium. That's my take on it. But there we go. We'll never know. The truth died that night.
He's still
Police
alive,
blunder.
isn't he?
Yeah, he's still alive, yeah.
Yeah, but
He's not going to admit it, is he?
You might as well though. When you've gone through so many attempts to get out and you can't get out, and you know you're in there for life, you might say, "Oh fuck it, you know what?
You've
Yeah,
still
I'll
got to try. There's
do
still
it."
a hope, isn't there? That's
I
the only
know.
hope you've got. You're not going to let that go.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're not going to admit it.
I think it's a police fuck up from the beginning.
Yeah.
the acceptance to jump on that easy
Yeah.
decision. Oh yeah, murder, suicide, boom, jobs are
Yeah.
done. What do you want us to do with all the stuff?
Get rid of it all. Burn it all.
Burn it all, dig an hole in the garden and burn it. And that's what they did.
Incredible, isn't it? No wonder they only solve 3% of crimes. Imagine if we had a success rate in our jobs at that.
That's a current statistic.
Yeah, 3%, yeah.
Despite all the CCTV.
Shocking, isn't it?
Yeah.
But that's because a lot of crime is petty crime that they
Probably,
don't
yeah.
waste their time on.
Pretty much got to save it for the big boys, haven't you? Got to save it for them serial killers. That's when we'll do our best detective work.
People that grow weed, that's their biggest fucking, seems to be one
Yeah.
of their biggest priorities.
Because
Isn't
that's easy, that's why.
The amount of money that's been wasted in the war on drugs is unbelievable.
it? Yeah.
If you ever tried to fight a war on drugs, man, it's fucking impossible.
Tripping balls.
You ever tried to make Command and Conquer after taking some drugs? It's fucking impossible.
And I'm bombshell.
I've been Ben. Thanks for listening. Don't drink the favour agent. Don't join a cult.
I've been Mike, thanks for listening. Peace out, may the force be with you.
I've been there, keep an open mind, but not so open that it spills out your ears.
And I'm Pete. Everybody have a nice week. Take care of yourselves.